gonna take my books to my wrap up. I'm gonna talk about them till I'm done. I'm gonna take my books to my wrap up. I'm gonna talk about them till I'm done. I read 18 things this month. Had a lot of fun. Now it's time to go and wrap them up. Buckle up your seatbelts. Gonna be here for a while. It was kinda... yeah. Hello my beautiful people, my name is Aaryn, and today I'm going to be sharing with you guys the 18 things I read this month. I say things because not all of them are books, and I know someone in the comment section is going to get super specific. I did have a goal beating my 15 books in February, and as far as I'm concerned, I beat that, so woot 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 woot. Similar to May, it was a pretty month. I gave a lot of 1 stars and 2 stars out, so it'll be fun talking about those. And let's just jump into it. We got a lot of things to get to. The first book I read this month was Magic Slays, the 5th book in the Kate Daniels series, and I gave this a 3 stars. I've noticed that since I started this series, I have been having a lot of mixed emotions about it. I was not a fan of the first book. I loved the 2nd and 3rd book. The 3rd book is my favorite. The 4th book was meh. The 5th book was meh. And we'll get to the rest. This book was also meh. I just feel like we had a strong start, but over time I got bored. And also we had like this new dynamic between our main couple, and although I was happy that we've kind of took this next step, I just wasn't as intrigued anymore, and it was really upsetting. So it was a 3-star book, and that's all I gotta say about that, because I have also noticed the books that I don't really care about in this series, I can't tell you a single thing that happened. Nope. The next book I read was yet another Kate Daniels book, and that is Gunmetal Magic. Now technically this book is number 5.5 in the series because it does follow Kate's friend Andrea, and it's not really a novella, it is like regular book sized, so I'm counting it as a book. I ended up giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I liked Andrea, I liked seeing things through her point of view. I wasn't necessarily missing Kate, which sometimes when you do read POVs from people in the series that you don't really care for, or you don't really have a lot of feelings about, that can happen. But that didn't happen. I actually picked this book, I actually read this only because I wanted to get some closure on her own personal relationships, and I did get what I was looking for. However, on that note, I was upset because I had to read it. And I know that sounds really goofy, but if I wanted any sort of explanation, I had to read that 0.5 book. That is ridiculous in my opinion. And here's why. I did went to book 6. I'll get to my thoughts on that soon. And literally, all we knew is that the couple was back together, and they did not even tell us how or like why all of a sudden when they literally could not be around each other in the 5th book. The fact that I had to read it to get any type of information about those 2 characters, you cannot give me a bare minimum little summary of how they're back together or like why they're back together in the next book. And not even like a spoiler. Like honestly, like we didn't even get a sentence like, oh yeah, Andrea and so are finally back together and they're mad in love. We just saw them together. And then Kate was like, oh yeah, Andrea and her boyfriend blah are going here. And if you did not read 0.5, you're going to be lost. You're going to be so lost, you're not going to know how this freaking happened. And I'm just upset. Like, I'm just upset that we did not get a bare minimum explanation in book 6. And so, 3 stars because the fact that I had to read this book, it just angers me. Anyways, Kate Daniels book 6. This is a Kate Daniels book that I remember. That's how you know I liked it. And it was a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I loved the plot. We did go to a whole entire different country, whole entire different continent for that matter in this story. And we got to see different power dynamics. And in the series, we do follow the pack. And the pack is shapeshifters. And the thing I love about Kate Daniels is the fact that shapeshifters are so much more than like pack first, pack always. Like no, it's like this really detailed government almost. No, like literally a government and hierarchy that you can understand and follow. Compared to Twilight, Jacob's pack is literally the Goodwill, which I like the Goodwill. I can do Goodwill. I go to Goodwill all the time. But it's Goodwill. Whereas this pack in the Kate Daniels series, freaking Chanel. It's Louis Vuitton. It is Fenty. So we're now seeing these other new packs across the globe, and we just get to see like their power dynamics, and I thought that was super interesting. But I took off a 0.5 stars because while we are in this new continent, we pretty much stay in one location, so I felt like we did not use it to its potential, especially if you're in a world of magic. Do you know how much you could have done? Moving on from Kate Daniels, finally. I know you guys wanted to move on from Kate Daniels because personally, while reading all these novels, I went to move on from Kate Daniels. I was a little bit Kate Daniels out. My binge had lasted me 6.5 books, and that's great, but I got a little bit tired of it. So I finally finished a book that I started in May, and I thought I was going to be done with in May, but sadly I was not, and that is Red, White, and Royal Blue. I ended up giving this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. I thought it was beautiful. That being said, I do not love this book. I literally looked through this book trying to find something wrong with it because I wanted to be something wrong with it that I could complain about to justify the fact that I'm not in love with this novel. I related so much to our main character, his like thoughts on politics. By the way, this is very left-leaning, also known as very democratic-leaning, so if you do want to read something like that, I guess you don't have to. Yeah, I related to him questioning his sexuality. Every single thought that he had, we were pretty much on the same wavelength, and I was into his love story. I thought it was interesting. I just enjoyed everything that happened, and yeah, I did not binge this book. I did not fall in love with this novel. I did not cry the tears of happiness that I kept hearing about, and so I wanted to find something wrong so I could figure out what's wrong with my feelings towards this. Like, I like it. I would totally recommend it. I would probably reread it in the future, to be honest. But why don't I love it? Why didn't I binge it? Why didn't I cry? Why didn't I feel these intense emotions that everyone else did? I don't know. And it severely bothers the crap out of me. I don't get why I'm feeling the way I am. And that's all I'm going to be saying about that, because thinking about it again kind of makes me upset again. So yeah. Oh. And so I decided to start a trilogy that I had actually seen, I believe Aphrodite Reads tweet about. If I'm wrong, I will correct it. And it is called The Bargainer Trilogy. I decided I wanted to take a quick dive into the series and see what's going on. Because honestly, like, the little tidbit that she posted online had my interest. So I went and I picked up the first book of the series, Rhapsodic, and I was super excited, and I read that in a night. I told myself, I'll just pick it up for a couple of minutes. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I did that a lot this month, by the way. I was all for it. I wanted to know the love story. I found the love interest compelling, and he's usually the type of guy I don't like. He's tall. He's not dark, but like his personality is dark, and he is exceptionally handsome. A fae, we love fae. I know what you guys are thinking. Aaryn, you of course gave it a 5 stars, right? No, it was a 2 stars. It was pretty bad. It wasn't bad, but I've gotten to this point where I don't want to give books 4 stars anymore, only because of my enjoyment of them. Like, I do take that into serious consideration, but when the flaws of the novel outweigh the greatness and the calmness and the fun I had while reading it, I just have to, it has to be said. Why did I dock off 3 stars? For starters, the romance. I am very compelled by the romance. I did enjoy the romance. I enjoyed every single interaction that I got. That being said, I was a little bit uncomfortable because when they first meet, she is 16, and knowing the typical female, he is in his hundreds. Not even hundreds, like hundreds. So the fact that they met around this time and she fell in love with him didn't make me uncomfortable, because I get I'm in love with Christopher Evans, but he was obviously falling back in love with her is what kind of made me uncomfortable. Keep in mind that 16 is considered an adult in this world, so she wasn't really a minor, but he still viewed her as a minor, because although the legal age of adulthood has changed, society's views on what is a young person has not, and so he did not ever touch her. But like, I just still felt uncomfortable the whole entire time, because I just knew that the sexual attraction was there. We all knew the sexual attraction was there. And so, I don't know. I feel like as someone who is 16, if I am uncomfortable with a relationship going on between a 16-year-old and a 100-year-old male, then I am more than allowed to dock off a star for that. And I don't think anyone has the right to tell me that I'm tripping. And that's that. And then secondly, the world is pretty much our own, but like magical creatures and just all these crazy wonderful things similar to Kate Daniels have come back, and so the world has adjusted in order to accommodate them. And so you have this beautiful world where vampires exist again and werewolves and sorceress, and we barely explore any of it throughout the whole entire series. Why would you even have this wonderful magical world if it's gonna have a minimal effect on your actual story? Even when we did go places, for example, we did go to, I believe, Venus in this book. It was Venus, or it was some other really pretty touristy old city like that. That being said, we spent 2 seconds, 2 sentences describing all of Venus, and we were outside. So it's not like we can only see like a narrow part of Venus through the window. No, we are outside. We see the beautiful water, we see the nice, beautiful, colorful buildings, and we spent 2 sentences describing it, and that just showcases to you how just lack of description that we have. Even the main character, we literally have no description of her, and it wasn't until the second book that it was said that her hair is like dark. That being said, the author has stated that she wanted to leave our main character as vague as possible, so not describing like her skin tone or like the sharpness or the softness of her features, because she wants us to be able to imagine her as we like. If you guys want our main character to be white, she can be white. We don't describe her skin tone. You have that freedom. If you want her to be black, make her black, Asian, Native American, etc. Like, you can literally do anything. So I do respect that. I do like the idea of it, but it does add on to like this lack of description. And also, we're not only traveling between our realm, we go to like the Fae realm too, and that has like a description, and you could have went ham with that. The next book in the series is A Strange Time, and I did not like this one as much as the first. I think this is the worst book in the series. Once again, similar to book 1, just a lack of description. We travel to this whole entire new destination, and I barely know what it looks like. It does have a title. For example, if I was like, OMG, the land of clouds, you can't imagine clouds in this placement, but it's pretty much all up to you. And also, the bartender was not as hot in this one, and I know why, and that's why I'm complaining about it. Pretty much, he is annoyingly secretive, and I get it. He trades in secrets. He's the bargainer. You make a bargain with him, you pay up. He's a trickster. He's cunning. I get it. He's the Slytherin of all Slytherins. That being said, he's talking to someone that he trusts and that he loves, and he's still annoyingly secretive. Hey babe, what color socks are you wearing? Wouldn't you like to know? Hey babe, so who did you get your white hair from? Your mom or your dad? Some things just shouldn't be told, Sharab. Hey babe, what are we gonna eat for dinner tonight? Sharab, I just can't speak on that. Why not? So Calypso, Lotus's best friend, Temper, makes much more of an appearance in this book. And Temper is black and, once again, lacking description. Although, to be honest, if we're gonna be real, POC characters never get much description anyways. Temper arrives in this book, and I get it. She's black. We get it. But did you have to make her the stereotypical black girl? We go into this whole entire new location. It is a location of refinery and of class, and you should be in your best behavior. And Temper is the annoying, super loud, cursing every single sentence black girl. Literally, look up stereotypical black girl from the hood, by the way, because I believe she's either from Compton or Long Beach, and those are considered the hood. So we're just fitting that stereotype, right, of not having any class and then saying, girl, F you, or like just being like super vulgar all the time. And it's meant to be like charming, and like Temper always keeps it real. And because Temper plays such a huge role, not even a huge role, just cheering up her best friend by screaming and cursing in her face and talking about getting a penis, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. We get it, she's black, that's all you have to say. You did not have to make her act black in order to execute that. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Okay, and then we get to the last book in the Bargainer series, and that is A Dark Harmony. I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. It is probably my favorite book in the whole entire series. Once again, description was lacking. I felt like the way that we dealt with the main villain was kind of lackluster, but overall I enjoyed it. I was much more interested in our random situations and info dumps now. Keep in mind that I've really already told you guys that I love the characters in this book, and the smut throughout the series was phenomenal. Some of the best smut I've ever read. The smut was greatest in this book, in my opinion. If you're like me and you were wondering, now you know. Okay, so the next book I finished this month was The Wrath in the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. I had this book on my shelf for about 2 years before I finally picked it up and started reading it. Because I have two really good friends that both love this book, and I thought, I trust their opinions enough to give it a shot, and I was so right about doing that because I give it a 5 out of 5 stars. After my overall disappointing reads of the month are just not having reads that I loved, it was so nice to not only binge this and like be invested in the story, but to just leave loving it and loving the characters. One thing I do love about this series is the relationship in it, and that's because you're so used to seeing like this possessiveness of like you're mine, or in this book series I'm in currently, the girl is literally referred to as his possession. But there's none of that in this book. They acknowledge each other's independence while still always being in each other's corner, and I love that. Also, although I had a feeling about where the relationship was going in the book overall, it's the foundation of it all and not the obviousness, so I still very much enjoyed that, and I love the execution. It has this perfect blend of magic in the mix, so the magic system isn't overwhelming, and so I just left this novel feeling fulfilled and satisfied, and that's not something I felt in a long time, and so I really needed it, and I'm so happy I read it. I love The Wrath of Dawn. The next book I finished in June is my least favorite book of all time. Never thought anything would ever beat the Hazelwood, but oh boy. Faireborn is the worst book of all time. Faireborn is bad because it has so much potential. It's about a world where our two main characters are 1,000 years apart. One of them is from 1,000 years ago, one of them is from the present, and you're just trying to figure out like what's changed over time. And the answer is absolutely nothing. If you read the story, you will see that there's been no technological advances or societal advances at all. I don't understand the 1,000-year jump. It just made things more confusing and complex, and it just made you have all these unnecessary questions. I get wanting to have like this high magic system, but also magic is kind of like waning in this new future. So I don't even understand like why she went that direction, because even in like one of the greatest stories of all time, Avatar: The Last Airbender, when we get to Korra, you have TV and radio now. At the same time, no one has forgotten magic. It still plays a wonderful, huge role in the story. And so I know for a fact that balance can exist. It just was not executed at all. And then I hate calling characters Mary Sue's. We have the biggest Mary Sue's ever in Faireborn. They are not different at all. I hate them both. They're super intense thoughts that should have you shook come out of nowhere. There's no like hinting, or there's no path that seems to make them go down that way. So if a character automatically decides that they want to kill this other person, you can't really trace back every single thing that led them to that point. It just happened and you have to accept it. Furthermore, their relationships, or like the hinted at relationships in this book, are so underdeveloped. One of them does make sense because they did meet each other during childhood, whereas the other one is literally insta-love. And not only is it insta-love, it's literally out of nowhere. It's like me interacting with someone twice about the weather, and now I'm feeling things for them and they're feeling things for me. Now there's this super unparalleled sexual tension. It makes no sense. And honestly, I wanted to read this book last year, but I did not have the funds or the time. And so now that I've read it this year and I hate it, it just makes it all even more disappointing. And Faireborn is by far the worst book I've ever read. Next up, we have Throws in the Dagger, which is the follow-up to The Wrath and the Dawn. And I also binged this book the day after I binged The Wrath and the Dawn. I did finish Faireborn in like hour interval because I had 3 chapters left, and yet they took all the life out of me. The Wrath and the Dawn was just as magical and wonderful and just great as the first one, to be honest. The next book I read is another book I was lucky enough to fall in love with, and that is The Vanishing Stair by Maureen Johnson. I read Truly Devious and I don't know when I read it, but I read it this year, one of the months. I mean, there's only been 6 of them that we've been through so far, and I really liked it. It was a slow read, or slow listen. I did listen to it on an audiobook. And The Vanishing Stair was completely different in terms of just how I paced myself while listening. I started The Vanishing Stair at 11 p.m. I listened to it all night long. It was so fun. It honestly blew the first book out the water. I got so much more invested in the romance, which I like David. A lot of people do not like David. The next book I read was Magic Breaks, which is the 7th book in the Kate Daniels series. Once again, a strong start. We had a very fun trio get together, a trio of people that I have all really enjoyed in the past, and I just found so funny, and they were so hilarious together, and I just laughed my eyes out. But then that trio disappeared in the second half, and I found myself getting less interested. And I know this because I can tell you guys what happened in the first half, but not the second. And so a 3 stars because we had this awesome strong start and then you fumbled it. And then the next book I read this month is Magic Shifts, and that is the 8th book in the Kate Neal series. Once again, a 3 stars. It's pretty much the same thing as Magic Breaks, to be honest. Just strong starts and yet weak finishes. Although we did have some pretty heartwarming moments in this book that we did not have in the others, and I did really like them, but it was just kind of boring. I also read Karan's POV, and Karan is the main love interest in the Kate Neal series. In the past, I complained about Karan. I'm pretty sure when we wrap up, I ranted about him and just his possessiveness and how he used the spirit as a tactic to get what he wants in literally every single aspect of his life, and how I just couldn't do it anymore. But then I read Karan's POV, and that combined with books 7 and 8, and just how he lost his overall edginess and he had to listen to me always, I started to like him a lot more. I mean, Karan's POV just gave me a lot of insight that I did not have before. It made me understand his thought process and why he acts and does the things that he does, and not in a way that made me like, well, I mean, it's still not justifiable, but like, oh, okay, like maybe I would have done the same thing. And I give it a 5 out of 5 stars because it made me love a character that I hated before, and that is magical. I did also finish 2 Kate Daniels novellas. I finished Magic Dreams and Magic Steals, both 3 stars. Both following side characters again who all of a sudden are together, and yet we literally get no explanation for how that happened. Next thing I read this month was Fix Her Up by Tessa Bailey. I'm going to be trying to keep this as short as possible because I'm actually about to post a review soon. But I did give this book a 2 out of 5 stars. It did not reach any type of expectations I had. I did have a lot of fun reading it. I read it in about 2 to 3 days. That being said, it was not a great novel at all. And then the last novel I read this month was recommended to me by a friend. We're gonna call her a friend because she really set me up to read a horrible book called One Night Promise. This is written by Jodie something. I'm sorry I can't remember her last name, but she does also write that really popular series This Man, and I know it's like a really big book series, so if you guys have read that, this is another one that she's written. Let's see, what's wrong with it other than everything. The main character is the most childish character I have ever read about. She literally does something and regrets it 3 seconds later, or she's like, that's it, I'm done with him. And then he walks into the room. She feels his hot breath breathing down her neck, and okay, I'll just drop my panties right here. And it's like, where is your willpower? Where is this respect you were demanding 3 pages ago? And then the love interest is the one I mentioned earlier, calling her his possession. His real name may be a bit of a spoiler, but we get it like 30 pages in, so whatever. But for now, we're just going to be calling him M. He is literally a jerk. And we try and to justify the fact that he's a jerk based off his past, but there comes a time where you just can't use your past to justify how you treat people anymore. And so many times, this is literally how the relationship functions. Livy, my sweet girl, just tell me what you want. You fascinate me. I'll give you anything. I want to go to the bathroom. No. I'm literally not exaggerating. She has the most basic requests and they're never granted, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Not only that, like when I say he's a control freak, like he literally controls every single thing that she does. Who she's seeing, where are you going, what are you wearing? And it's ridiculous, and I can't stand it. And then you have these stupid time jumps. I kid you not. I'm kid you not. We ended the chapter and she was done with him. Goodbye. I'm over him. Whatever. I'm never gonna talk to you again. The next chapter, she sees him. She starts sobbing, and then they're back together again. What type of time jump is that? We did not even get to see like the mental drain that made her realize that she just needs him in her life. It's the dumbest read of my life. That being said, I did finish book 2 in July, so we're gonna say that for a July wrap up, and I am reading book 3. But listen, I did not pay for these novels, so I'm okay. So that's the end of my June wrap up. I know I talked about a lot of books, so I hope that you guys are able to really understand like my feelings and my thoughts on them. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more content, you can subscribe down below. Give me your thoughts and opinions. If you guys read any of these novels, how did you feel about them? If you guys want to read any of these novels, I literally recommend hate reading. I hate read it so much throughout this month, if that's not really obvious to you guys. Listen, like if you guys just want to hate read it, then like come back and just talk about how much you hate it, and then I can talk about how much I hated it with you in more detail. I am totally down. I love doing that. It is my favorite opportunity ever. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap this video up because I obviously went really off topic from my closing, but I do love you in conclusion, and I want to see you guys again. Bye.